Hello, welcome to Jason the Old Millennial. My name is Jason, speaking to you here in my basement in the great state of Kansas. Today's video I am talking about, again, my top 100 favorite movies. This time I'm in my top 15 favorite movies of all time at this point in time, 2024, almost 2025. Yeah, we're going to get to 15 through number 11 on the list. So yeah, getting close to my top 10 favorite movies of all time. So I hope you enjoyed here. These are movies that have been in my top, some of these have been in my top 10 in the past. One of these actually was my favorite movie for a time period. Absolutely love. Actually, a lot of movies from the 90s period I love are in this list. And then there's some older ones as well. But yeah, so I hope you enjoy this list here on Jason the Old Millennial. Hello, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well here on a Friday night. Yeah, and it's almost Christmas time. It's like 5 days till Christmas. Yeah, I'm gonna go and visit my parents this weekend. We're gonna have Christmas there at my parents' house. So that's kind of be my Christmas, because I'm working Christmas Eve, of course, at my job, and so I'm not gonna have much of a traditional Christmas myself. Probably most likely spend Christmas alone, like I normally do, which is part of being, being here, working in healthcare and all that. You never know when you're going to work. Anyway, so let's get to my top 15 favorite movies, going 15 through number 11. Number 15, this is my favorite Steven Spielberg movie, actually, and this is Jurassic Park. It came out in 1993. I saw this in the movie theater. I was like 9, maybe 10 years old at the time. Man, did it blow me away. I can still remember that time seeing it. And boy, did it scare me. It scared the crap out of me as a 19-year-old. And I didn't, again, I'm not that old, so it's like I don't have that big of a film experience at that point in my life. But still, I remember when it was coming out and seeing the trailers and seeing, commercials, and it was everywhere. I mean, obviously, it was very advertised. It's going to be a big thing. Everybody knew it was going to be like the next big movie. And of course, it broke the box office record for 1990, for that, up to that point, up to 1993. I mean, it did huge numbers. I mean, everybody went to see this movie. And so I remember, again, I was kind of young, probably a little too young to watch this movie, but I guess I was just old enough that I could get through this movie, though, like I said, it scared the crap out of me, I remember. But yet it excited me too at the same time. And yeah, I remember going to with my family to the movie theater. Yeah, and I just remember this being like a big deal, and it was when we watched it. Again, I can look back in retrospect and just say, yeah, it was one of the greatest movie experiences I've ever had in my life. It was huge, anyways. But yeah, and more I watch it now, more I'm loving this movie. It even made it to my top 15, which last time I kind of did this kind of a list, it was a little bit lower on my list, but still pretty high. And I don't know if it was always my favorite Spielberg movie, but going back to a lot of Spielberg stuff. Like I had The Last Crusade actually come in at number 20, another Spielberg movie I absolutely love. But going back to this, I've seen this movie so many times. I still love it so much. I like actually kind of enjoy the whole franchise. Jurassic Park is a really good franchise in total. I don't know, something really fun about watching dinosaurs chase people and the thrills. I mean, it's just a good thriller. And this was just, like I said, and Spielberg is just an amazing director, directing thrillers and, action adventures. He's just the best. He's the GOAT of that genre. And even from the very beginning, the very first scene was like scary and thrilling and all that. But I mean, the two scenes that obviously will always stand out is the first time. I love how they hide the T-Rex until he pops out when they're all in front of the T-Rex pen and the electricity goes out, and you see his hand first. And you hear the bumps. I love that. I mean, genius. That's why Spielberg's so great, is that oh God, something's coming, because you can see the ripples in the cup drinks. You hear the bumps, the pounding of the ground, The sound design is so good. This is, I think, the best sound design I've ever heard in a movie. Every time I watch this, I'm just like, holy cow. This is why it's so scary. The sound design is just incredible. I mean, when T-Rex comes out and he steps on the mud, and you see the, stuff like that. It was incredible. I remember watching this movie theater just being in awe. And even today I watch this, I still get these goosebumps. Like, wow, this is such a great scene of the T-Rex coming out and attacking the car. I mean, everything from the big eye coming up next to the window, and she shines a light in it, and then it coming down on top of them, which again, they use CGI for the long shots, but the close shots is actually animatronic I think that's why it's so good. Today, we just use CGI for everything. Well, it's like, no, actually how you use special effects the best is if you do CGI mixed with animatronics or something real. Because those dinosaurs looked real and they felt real when they came at the people. But yeah, the scene where the T-Rex is like right next to him and he says, don't move. They can't see if you don't move. And the T-Rex blows his hat off with his nostrils as it's breathing next to it. Oh my gosh, that was so incredible. Just an incredible scene, a thrilling scene overall. It's hard to say if that's my favorite scene, or my other favorite scene is the two velociraptors. Velociraptors, man, those were scary. Those were probably the scariest animals. And like, we never heard of velociraptors as dinosaurs. We've heard T-Rexes, heard of Triceratops, Brontosauruses, all this. Never heard of Velociraptor. And they basically made Velociraptor like the coolest dinosaur and the scariest dinosaur probably ever invented. I said, I don't know, I suppose there really were Velociraptors, but I think they weren't like the ones in the movie. They definitely made them so they would be scary. Anyways, and the way they talk about them and all that. But the scene where they're in the kitchen with the two kids, man, I remember seeing that and just going, holy cow, how are the kids gonna get out of this situation? These two scary raptors in the kitchen, and they like turn their heads and just barely miss them, and just incredibly directed. I mean, again, Spielberg just on his A game directing this and making you feel every thrill of it. And yeah, so many other great shots I can talk about, but yeah, it's just a masterpiece in thrill making, and I still get thrilled by it. Even it's like 41 years old. It's old as me. I mean, not 40, 31 years old. It's because I was still alive. It was like 31 years old, and I still watch this movie, and I'm like, wow, special effects still work, which is incredible. Sometimes you watch movies from 10 years ago and you go, special effects don't work, but this one still works. Also, I have to say, John Williams' score is so amazing. It's one of my favorite scores of all time. Probably top 5 favorite film score. The bum 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 bum. Oh, incredible music that goes well with everything, and all the acting. I can go on and on. Love Jurassic Park. Every time I watch it, I just love it more and more. So it's number 15 on my list. All right, number 14 is a very old movie, one of the oldest movies on my list. And again, if you know anything, I'm a big Frank Capra fan, and this is my second favorite Frank Capra movie, as Mr. Smith Goes to Washington here at number 14 on the list. Yes, an absolute classic coming out in 1939, one of the greatest years of movies of all time, of course. Yeah, directed by Frank Capra, starring the great Jim Stewart, one of my all-time favorite actors, and one of the best performances he's ever given. Jean Arthur, of course, in it too, is kind of the love interest. A lot of good actors here. I want to say Claude Rains is absolutely incredible here. Yeah, as kind of a mentor villain character. He should have gotten an Oscar as well. Also, love Thomas Mitchell. He's in like in every Frank Capra movie. He is always great as well. But yeah, if you haven't seen it, man, it's an incredible story about one of the most likable characters you're ever going to meet. Jefferson Smith, played by Jimmy Stewart. As you see, you see right in the look, he's just awed by Washington, D.C. and politics. He kind of gets put into a Senate role because the senator dies, and so they have to fill it in before the next election, and then they have an election, whatever. So they fill it in with Jefferson Smith, who's never been a politician, but is very likable. And of course, they put him in that position because they feel like he's young and he's naive and all these things, and they can, manipulate him to do what they want and vote for the bills they want and all this. And of course, he has a moral, he's a very moral person, so he won't go against his moral values like that. And that's where they cause problems because Washington, D.C., even in 1939, they saw Washington, D.C. as a very corruptible system. Our government was very corrupt, and we think that even more today. But even back in 1939, they kind of paint this picture of corrupt politicians very well. And that's what I love about the movie. I think they really nail politicians. They are sneaky snakes that lie to you to get what they want, to get reelected, to get bills passed. They're just a bunch of really corrupt liars up in Washington, D.C., all these senators and congressmen and, all that. I really think that. And even more than that, what I love about this movie is that Jefferson Smith actually knows the Claude Rains character who's been a senator. He's like one of the long-lasting senators anyways, and kind of mentors him a little bit. And he was a friend of Jefferson Smith's father, and Jefferson Smith's father was murdered because he was like, I think he was a newspaper man or something, and he spoke out against corruption, and he got murdered. And so, and one of my favorite lines is, "Lost causes are the best causes to fight for." Love that line that goes through this movie. And I love that he looks at Claude Rains and goes, "Yeah, you're a friend of my father's. You're a good person." And then, not to spoil the movie too much, but Claude Rains' character is actually a bad person and actually tries to ruin Jefferson Smith at one point. And you learn, like, okay, this guy was a good human being when he got into Congress, when he became a senator. But then over years of being the senator, he became corrupt, because that's the only way you can get anything done in Washington, D.C. So I think that's true in real life, that even the best person goes to Washington, D.C. and becomes, involved in politics, involved in government, becomes a bad person, because you have to compromise your morals to get things done. And so they kind of touch on that, I love. But yeah, I love Jim Stewart. He was nominated for Best Actor. A lot of people thought he should have won this year. He definitely, luckily, won like the next year, but definitely a great performance from Jimmy Stewart, like I said. Because like I said, he's so naive. He's so, and again, I love the movie because it's so pro-American. He goes and watches. He's like, wow, look, the Lincoln Memorial, the Capitol building. He's just, and that's like me. Like when I go to Washington D.C., I'm like, oh my gosh, look at all this history. He's the same as me. When he goes to Washington D.C., he's just overwhelmed by all the great, love for America. Like I love America and all this. And so I love that the film, and that's what's great about Frank Capra. His films really put a love for America in them, which makes me love Frank Capra for that, and love the characters that he has in these movies and the overall plot. Anyway, so yeah, one of the greatest moments in the movie is, of course, at the very end, he does a filibuster and he talks about how great America is, and he talks about how to bring up kids with these American ideals, and the Constitution, how great the Constitution is. Great sequence. That's where Jimmy Stewart gives his best performance. And the bad senators are trying to get him to yield to him, so then his filibuster will be gone. And he says, "No, I will not yield." I mean, incredible performance. Just a very, it's funny, it's heartwarming, I think, and just very, I think, again, if you're American, I think it puts in a lot of American pride in you. Great performances all around. Just a absolute delight of a movie. As Mr. Smith Goes Washington, here at number 14 on my list. Number 13, going with another 90s movie. I think this also came around 90. I want to say this came out maybe around 93, 94 as well. And that is A Few Good Men. At 13, yeah, I've always loved this movie. I watched it maybe on TV when I was a kid. I didn't see it in the theater. It's a radar movie, so I couldn't go see it. And so eventually I got around to it. It's Rob Reiner directing. Tom Cruise, one of my favorite Tom Cruise performances as a Navy lawyer. You get Jack Nicholson. I mean, one of my favorite Jack Nicholson performances. He got nominated for Best Supporting Actor. In my opinion, he should have won. He gives one of the great speeches in movie history here as well. I mean, just absolutely. He's not in it a lot, but when he's in it, man, he steals every scene. That's why he's one of the greatest actors of all time. Demi Moore, really good performance by Demi Moore as well. And she's having a good year this year. She's probably going to get nominated for Best Actress for The Substance, get her first Oscar nomination. But she's really good here. So many actually cool performances throughout. Kevin Pollak, I think his best performance as a lawyer. He's a comedic actor, but yeah, he does actually pretty good serious performance here. J.T. Walsh is very good. And then you got like Kiefer Sutherland and all these different really great actors that have like cameos. Oh, Kevin Bacon's really good in the movie as well. It's a great cast overall. But man, this movie, it's one of those, I love a good courtroom drama, and this is my favorite courtroom drama of all time. This is where I probably fell in love with courtroom dramas. When I saw this for the first time, I love the back and forth between Tom Cruise and Kevin Bacon, and asking questions of the witnesses and all that. Love all the courtroom stuff and all the planning, how are we going to win this case? Love all that stuff. I don't know anything about being a lawyer or legal matters. Still so much fun to watch it here. Anyways, and it's just a great script. It's written by Aaron Sorkin, who's, of course, known as one of the great, script writers of all time. And it's just amazingly paced. It's just never a boring moment. It's just every moment is just captivates you, character development, pushes the plot. It's, never a dull moment. It's just one of the best paced movies I've ever seen, where once I start watching this movie, man, it's like I can't stop watching. it captivates you, and you just have to keep watching until the end. Even though I've seen it so many times, I still love watching it. Like I said, Tom Cruise is great. He's more comedic here, I say at times, but he does have his great serious moments as well, especially in the courtroom part with, especially sparring, him and Jack Nicholson sparring, absolutely incredible. My favorite, not just my favorite moment in this movie, one of my favorite moments in film history is that, of course, he has one of the greatest lines, I want the truth. You can't handle the truth. I mean, obviously, that's like one of the biggest, that's like a top 10 best film quote of all time, film line in a movie. Love that moment, and it just how it builds up to that moment. You're like waiting for it. You're like, oh, let's get to that moment, and then it comes. You're like, yes, yes. And then Jack Nicholson goes to the whole speech about you need me on that wall. Who's going to defend it? You, Caffrey. Such a great line, such a great performance by Nicholson. And then, did you order code red? You, gosh darn right, I ordered code red. Oh my gosh, such a great scene going back and forth there. But it's also got a lot of comedy, like I said. Cruise is kind of this young, hotshot lawyer. He's very witty and jokey at times, and it really works for the character. I think it makes him a very, at first he might seem like a little too arrogant, but overall a very likable character. And I said, everybody does a really good performance here. And like I said, yeah, the acting so good across the board, just absolutely amazing acting, amazing story. The so many quotable lines in this movie, so much great dialogue being said, and one of the great, I said, courtroom dramas of all time. My favorite of all time. If you like courtroom dramas, man, this is the one. Like I said, you get through it. It feels like very quickly, and it's just every moment is really great. So that's why it makes it all the way up here to number 13 on my list. All right, number 12 on my list, favorite movie of all time, is Braveheart. Yes, came out in 1995. Again, I didn't see this in theater. It was rated R, very bloody. Lots of other stuff happening in this movie. I actually saw it at a friend's house, actually. He had the DVD, VHS. And I think it was still back in the day, I used to watch VHS. And it's such a long movie. It's like, 3-hour movie or whatever. And so he had like 2 cases, because he couldn't watch it in one VHS thing. He had to watch it in 2. And I remember going to my friend's house and watching it. It was like the second R-rated movie I've ever seen in my life. Because I was still pretty young. I was probably like, 13 or 14 when 14 maybe when I saw this movie at my friend's house. And loved it then. And since then, I've just loved it more and more. What a great story. Directed by Mel Gibson, also starring Mel Gibson, as you can see, as William Wallace, who helps lead the Scottish to revolt against the English who were oppressing them, doing such terrible things. And of course, he falls in love with a Scottish girl who gets murdered by a Kingsman, and that's when he kind of starts to revolt against the king. And that's how they formed Scotland, basically. He helped form that country. So it's such an epic movie, obviously. Again, it's a long movie. There's a couple of really great battle sequences that are so well done. Again, one Best Picture, one Best Director for Mel Gibson, Best Makeup, I believe, and stuff like that. So, incredibly looking movie, well-directed movie. Will Wallace, of course, is so greatly acted by Mel Gibson. He's such a likable character, and he fights for those who, he's fighting for freedom, which I love. That's what I love about the movie. It's all about freedom is worth dying for. It's worth killing for. Freedom is very important. And as an American, I totally get that, because we had to fight the English to get our freedom from the country and get to make our own decisions and what we want. And we've been able to create the greatest country of all time in America, in my opinion. As an American, that's my opinion. But yeah, and so as an American, even though it's about Scottish freedom, I just feel a lot of patriotism for myself. When I watch it, I'm like, yeah, freedom, let's fight for freedom, So it really gets me going when I'm watching this. Just incredibly shot. The cinematography is so amazing. When it has those helicopter shots over the green hills of either Scotland or Ireland. I've heard that it actually got shot in Ireland, because Ireland is prettier than Scotland, but let's just say it's just beautiful scenery. Love the cinematography. I think I won an Oscar probably as well. But yeah, love the cinematography overall. Just beautiful, beautiful sceneries of all that. And The musical score, James Horner. I actually bought this musical score not too long ago. I have it right here. Right here, I bought this recently, the Braveheart soundtrack. James Horner, one of the greatest film score composers. Unfortunately, he's passed away since then, not too long ago. And yeah, this is my favorite. I talked about Jurassic Park. This is my favorite musical score of all time. That's why I had to get the soundtrack. I listened to it many times. Love the bagpipes. Love the flutes and all that. Amazing. Yeah, and just the fight sequences are great. It's very funny at times. It actually has pretty good humor. William Wallace himself can be very humorous at times. So many great, supporting actors. First time I don't see him on here, but one of my favorite supporting actors plays his best friend on here, Brendan Gleeson. Brendan Gleeson, great character actor. First time I saw him in this movie, I was like, who's this actor? I like this actor. And every time I see him in a movie, of course, he's been like in Harry Potter. He's been in so many big stuff that I'm like, this guy's such a great actor. I always love it when he's in a movie. I'm like, all right, Brendan Gleeson's here. I know I'm going to get a good performance from Brendan Gleeson. Anyway, but yeah, so much good stuff there. Of course, the very final scene when he's getting tortured and, asked, to I don't know, apologize or to, say that the king, he gives his, allegiance to the king or something like that before he dies. And he yells out, freedom. And they play that music. Oh my gosh. That and the very final scene when, I'm forgetting the guy that, plays like a kind of leader of the Scottish, who takes over kind of after William Wallace dies. And he's going to negotiate like peace with the English. Instead, he's going to go to have another battle, and then he throws Brendan Gleeson throws a sword in the air, and it does it does that music as it's like flying through the air, and then it lands, and then they run slow motion. And he's like, they fought as Scotsmen. Oh my gosh, like it gets me every time, like goosebumps. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's such a great scene. What an amazing ending. It's also romantic at times, has some good romance in it. Yeah, it's just everything. The way, the whole story about freedom, fighting for freedom, the cinematography, the music, everything is so amazing. It's a movie I keep going back to and absolutely loving. Braveheart. At number 12 on my list. Last movie I'm going to talk about, number 11 on my list. It also came out in 1995. What a good year 1995 was. But this is Mr. Holland's Opus, number 11 on my list. This actually used to be my favorite movie, like, of all time. To be honest, for a while, this was my favorite movie, probably in the 2000s period when I was going to college. Because I went to college and I got a degree in teaching history, actually. I wanted to be a teacher. And big reason why I wanted to be a teacher is because I saw this movie in 95 when I was, 12 years old. And I saw it in the movie theater. And it really inspired me to want to be a teacher. And unfortunately, I never got to get a teaching position and kind of gave up that dream. But that was my dream for a long time, is to be a teacher and hopefully inspire students like Mr. Holland inspired his students. Anyway, so yeah, I saw this movie theater in 95. Again, 95, incredible year. Like I said, he had my number 12 movie on there, Braveheart. This movie, Toy Story came out this year. And actually a movie that's in my top 10 also came out in 95. So in my opinion, 95 was the greatest year of movies for me. And yeah, there's such a really cool, inspirational movie about a guy who didn't really want to be a teacher, but he needed to make money. All he really wanted to do was write music. He really loved writing music, and he wanted to be like a music composer or whatever. And he thought he can be a teacher on the side and write his music as well, and eventually give up his teaching gig. But he finds out, of course, as he teaches, that he absolutely loves teaching music, and he loves, inspiring kids and helping kids to be better people. And that becomes his main job, and he kind of forgets about the composing. He does that every once in a while, but it's kind of on the side. The most important thing is helping the students. And yeah, I love that. He's such a great person, such a great character that you absolutely fall in love with. I mean, I say fall in love with, you absolutely love him as a teacher. And I've had so many great teachers in my life that I think about, like they really, inspired me, in ways. And that's why I want to be a teacher myself, because I want to be inspiring, all that, and you get that in this movie. So many great moments of teaching, students to talk about. To talk about my greatest favorite moments, probably, I mean, the moment where he has a deaf son and they have a strained relationship, and the scene where he sings and signs A Beautiful Boy by John Lennon. What an incredibly emotional scene. The ending is one of the greatest endings of all time. I mean, every time I see this movie, it has me bawling at the end. When everybody shows up as he's going to retire, he's kind of forced to retire against his will, and all his previous students show up to, you know, celebrate his career as a teacher. I mean, what a incredible moment. We'd all love that at the end of our jobs, is to have everybody thank us for a lifelong of working. You know, none of us will get it probably, but it's nice to think about anyways. And so that's great. The music is great. There's some of the greatest montages I've ever seen with great music. And I love the music takes place from 65 to 95, 30 years. So, and you see it, they kind of do montages so you get to the next decade and you see how styles have changed, how Mr. Holland's getting older, all the characters are getting older. I love that. I love it's 30 years in the life of this guy as a teacher and all the different struggles he has while teaching anyway. So yeah, and I have to say Richard Dreyfuss as Glenn Holland, one of the greatest performances of all time, one of my favorite all-time performances, nominated for Best Actor. It's hard to say. I definitely think he should have won that year. I think that was the year Nicolas Cage won for leaving Las Vegas or whatever. I would have given to Richard Dreyfuss, even though he already has an Oscar. Like, this is my favorite role of his. But yeah, if you like a good, inspiring movie that's really heartwarming, that'll have you crying by the end, I mean, this is a great movie to check out. Definitely, Mr. Holland's Opus. Number 11 on my list. So that's the rest of my list today. Next, I'll get into my top 10 favorite movies all time. Hope you guys are excited to see what movies I absolutely love and cherish the most anyways, and I'm excited to get to them. But besides that, thank you, and comment what do you think about these 5 movies. If you love them themselves, please put them in the comments because I love reading them. And just thank you for watching this video. Thank you for liking it. Thank you to all my subscribers for supporting the channel. I appreciate you all and hope you have a good day and a Merry Christmas.